What is up, guys? Welcome to my review for Arrow Season 7 Episode 17, titled Inheritance. This is the episode that we finally have a pretty clear idea who and what the main villains are going to be. Up until this episode, there was like a lot of episodes like a drought without a main villain at all. Then Dante was revealed, but he was barely in the season or any of the episodes really, except for one episode, and that is it. And finally, this episode revealed the Ninth Circle, who are going to be the organization that are the main villains of the season. But this episode also revealed that Emiko is, or Emiko, I don't really know how they pronounce it, they always change every other episode, but anyway, Emiko, she is the head of that organization, making her probably, I guess, the main villain of the season. So I guess both Arrow and the Flash are doing their first female main villains, and we'll see how that turns out. But in this video, I will review this episode. I do think this is a pretty good episode, a pretty good return for the season after not really having a clear vision or a clear goal for Team Arrow at all, like who they're going to fight, because up until this episode, there wasn't really a clear main villain, but now there definitely is, and it seems like the season has been leading up to this very nicely as well. So let's talk about the main storyline of the episode. The main storyline has to do with Oliver learning the news from Laurel. She learned it 2 episodes ago. There was a break in middle without any present day scenes because of the Flash Forwards episode. But this episode continues where 2 episodes ago left off, where Laurel learned that Emiko is the one who killed Ricardo Diaz, and she's not the hero that we all thought she was, and she tells us to Oliver. And I think Oliver's reaction to this is, first of all, a little weird. Like, he's very, very defensive about it, like especially towards Laurel. But it also makes sense because he has, like, in this episode even says as a flaw for him, he has this soft spot for family, which is a characteristic that has definitely been present in all 7 seasons of the show. So I do think this reaction is definitely very accurate to the character, and his reaction and everything, the way he deals with it in this episode is also very, very accurate to the character. Through this storyline, the episode introduced the Ninth Circle after Oliver just confronted Emiko about this whole thing, and she just tells him everything, the fact that she's working for Dante and the Ninth Circle, or with Dante and the Ninth Circle. And I like the fact that they didn't dance around it. They just got to the point and like got straight to the point, and I like that quite a lot in that scene in the storyline. But the episode introduced us to the Ninth Circle, an organization who it was pretty clear was going to be the main villains of the season. They are very, very new, very recent Green Arrow villains from the first storyline, or really the entire storyline of the Green Arrow Rebirth storyline. The Ninth Circle were the main villains, and Myka Queen was also a very large part of it. So with Emiko and Dante, it was pretty clear they were going to be the main villains of the season. And I gotta say, at least the henchmen are very disappointing, because it would have been cool to see them wearing the melting skull, the red melting skull mask that they wear in the comics, just to serve to, one, differentiate them from like the ghosts in season 4. They seem very, very similar, just wearing black and nothing else, and just being henchmen, just faceless, nameless henchmen. But also just to make them less boring, because it's just black, that's all they're wearing here. It would have been cool to see them wearing these masks just to make them less boring and for that differentiation. But this episode did introduce us to the Ninth Circle, and I do think it did a pretty good job at that. But it did a really good job, I think, at making it, or establishing Myka Queen as the villain of this season, and I will obviously get to that in this review. After Oliver confronts Emiko about this whole thing, she goes to the Ninth Circle and Dante, and Oliver tails her. This confrontation between the Ninth Circle and Oliver seems very, very fake. I mean, the characters seem like they're acting in the moment, and it's pretty insane how Oliver didn't notice this, but maybe it was intentional, maybe it wasn't. Like, this scene felt faked, and that was the reason, because later it was revealed that it was fake. She definitely was not going to betray the Ninth Circle. She wasn't actually joining Team Arrow. That was revealed a little bit later, that she was like a double agent for the past couple minutes ever since the scene. But still, I don't know if this is intentional or not, because if it was, what is the point in that? And if it wasn't, then they kind of failed at the twist in the middle of the episode, which was that Emiko was working for the Ninth Circle this entire time. That's a minor thing in this episode that I definitely didn't like. It doesn't take long, but Emiko is revealed as a double agent for the Ninth Circle. She's still working with them. I mean, this really only happened a couple minutes ago, so maybe it was intentional. This twist, if you want to call it that, it comes so early in the episode that maybe it was intentional to make that scene earlier like fake. I don't know, but there was a double agent thing that she has been working as a vigilante and with Renee for the past couple months, as well as getting close with Oliver for the past couple months, but also at the same time working for the Ninth Circle. But apparently all this time it was fake, and she was working working as a double agent. That definitely was revealed in this episode, and it didn't take very long to get to that reveal, and when it did, there was a fight scene between the Green Arrow and the Red Arrow, which definitely established the Red Arrow as her fighting ability. She's never been called the Red Arrow. I'm just going to call her that because that's definitely what her supervillain name is going to be. It makes sense that she's a good fighter because she's actually been learning to fight way longer than Oliver has, but at the same time, it's pretty clear that Oliver is a way better fighter than she is, and it would be a little bit frustrating if he wasn't, and also he's way bigger than her, so it's a little weird and a little unusual how she's able to overwhelm him in this fight. So I'm just going to assume that he held back and that she didn't, just to make it fair. But I do think this fight is actually pretty good. It utilizes the small space that they have in this area pretty well for the most part. The choreography is definitely not bad, but there is one big problem, and that is Myka Queen. The actress's delivery of all the lines is just horrible. One of those lines right at the end of the fight scene,
"Bye, brother,"
where she says "bye, brother" at the end, it's so clunky. The dialogue is so cheesy, and it's delivered so poorly that it kind of really takes me out of the episode, and it makes me worried about the season villain of season 7. But that's really just one moment. It's really actually just 2 acting moments in this scene, and maybe she can prove herself to be a good villain of the season. But that scene, I mean, "bye, brother," it's just such a terrible line. This scene is followed up by a scene with Oliver and Diggle, which I liked a lot. A conversation between Oliver and Diggle where Diggle mentions how similar what's going on now is to what happened in season 4 to him with Andy, how a long lost brother who returns, and it turns out they are working for an evil organization, and they betray the sibling that they have on Team Arrow. It's very similar, and I like this scene quite a lot. I think it really showed Oliver's flaw with his blind spot for his family. It's a great conversation between Oliver and Diggle, and I don't actually mind the callback to season 4. I don't mind the comparison to season 4 because while it is the same storyline, they definitely can execute it way better, and they have executed it way better this time around, especially since it is the main character and not a side character. And also, that wasn't the worst part of season 4. It wasn't good. I wouldn't say that storyline was good at all, and it led to a pretty stupid ending where Andy leads to the death of Laurel, but it was definitely not the worst storyline of the season, and that season was very bad. But I definitely think that storyline could be used well with this season, and has definitely been executed way better in this season, and I just really like this conversation between Oliver and Diggle. Then there's a big fight scene, the climax of the episode, which is the Ninth Circle versus Team Arrow right at the end, or near the end. And I think this fight scene of the scene had a lot of great moments, like the moment where Oliver took down all those drones, where he quick fired all his arrows. That was definitely a very cool moment. And the fight scene right after that between him and all these henchmen on the Ninth Circle, it was very short, but it also was very cool. Like the way they used the camera in this fight scene, I think that it really reminds me of season 7 episode 7, where they had these long takes. This one was way shorter. It was really just one moment, but I do think the fight scene in this shot right here actually looked really cool. This whole climax of the episode definitely worked very well, and right after that, it was revealed that Myka is actually the leader of the Ninth Circle, revealing that she is actually the main villain of the season, the first female main villain of the season, which I don't know if that will work in the end, because I don't know if this makes me sexist, but the fact that she is a woman makes her kind of less of a physical threat to Oliver than a man would, just because she's so much smaller than him, and it's very apparent in all the fight scenes. I don't know if that will end up like that in the end of the season, I don't know, but this was a good reveal, partially because the way the season has been going, this is really the only villain they can have that would feel satisfying for the season, because this is a character that actually appeared in the first episode of this season as this new Green Arrow, and she was unmasked in episode 10, which is a pretty good episode to unmask a main villain of a season. But we didn't learn that she's a main villain until this episode, where it's revealed that she's actually the leader of the Ninth Circle. So I do think it makes a lot more sense for the season. It makes the season in general feel a lot more connected from the beginning, instead of feeling like 7 episodes is one season and then a couple episodes with no main villain and then the season starts again, or another season starts again when Dante first appears. Instead, with Myka, it feels like the whole season is actually connected through the new Green Arrow, Dante, and the Ninth Circle, and right now with Red Arrow, who is going to be apparently the main villain of this season. I'm not going to say I'm excited for her to be the main villain of the season, but I think it is past due time that this season has a clear main villain, and I'm glad that it is one who has been appearing in the entirety of the season, has a personal connection to Oliver, and also has a costume. This episode actually had two different side storylines. One of them was later revealed to be very, very connected to the main storyline. The other one, not so much. The one that is not connected at all has to do with Felicity Smoke and Elena, and they're coming together to create Smoke Technologies, which has been teased for a very long time, ever since I'm pretty sure Star City 2046 and the first season of Legends of Tomorrow, where they see Smoke Technologies in the future, and it seems like they are finally actually getting to creating that. This is definitely not a storyline I'm excited for. I don't think these two characters work very well together on the screen, but at the same time, this episode only really had 2 scenes with this, so for this episode alone, it didn't really bother me whatsoever. This is not a storyline I like, but at the same time, it's not a storyline I hate either, and it was really only just 2 scenes. The other storyline, which was largely unconnected to the main storyline, but then later at the end it was revealed that it is very connected to the main storyline, but mainly connected to the main villain. In this episode, Laurel was the one who leaked everything to do with Myka to Oliver, and this led to all the conflict between them in the episode. So as revenge, Myka leaked everything to do with Laurel, or her secrets as well. The fact that she is Black Siren, or the fact that she was working with Ricardo Diaz, and now she can't really be a DA anymore. I think the storyline was pretty good, the way it unfolded, the twist at the end, which I honestly didn't see coming, that Myka was behind the killing of the person that Laurel was supposed to make a deal with earlier in the episode, making Laurel look very, very bad. I think that was a good twist, and I liked how this storyline unfolded. And this all leads to the next episode, which is the big Birds of Prey episode with the 3 canaries, who are all going to appear in that next episode, which I will talk about in the trailer breakdown. So I actually completely finished recording this video, but one thing I totally forgot to talk about are the flashbacks. Flashbacks which showed Myka's childhood, showed Robert Queen leaving her family, showed Dante taking her under his wing, and showing her training to becoming what she is in the present day, and also showing her at the end seemingly being the one who put the bomb on the Queen's Gambit. That's at least what that was implied at the end of the episode, when she was already wearing her Red Arrow costume, but it was also definitely during a flashback, during the flashbacks of the first episode of the season. I think the actual flashbacks up to this scene were kind of pointless, but at the same time, definitely not a bad way to flesh her out as a character in her backstory. But most of what we saw were things that we already were told about in previous episodes, as well as everything to do with Dante in this episode. They are actually told us, so they didn't necessarily need to show it, but I'm definitely not mad that they did. But the scene at the end was a crazy twist on the character, a crazy twist on the season, and also a crazy twist on the show, which goes back all the way to the first episode of the show ever, which was a twist that I did not see coming, which is that Myka has some sort of connection to the sabotaging of the Queen's Gambit all the way back in the first episode's flashbacks. In conclusion, I think that Season 7 has been going very, very poorly in the last couple episodes, and I always felt like the season just didn't have a clear goal, a clear main villain, and it really, really needed one. And it felt like when Dante was revealed as the main villain, it felt so disconnected from the rest of the season, even with Myka being his sidekick or whatever, which does connect to Oliver and does connect to the season, but just very, very loosely. And this episode fixed all that, making Myka the main villain of the season, connecting the storyline well together, very, very well in my opinion. The other 2 storylines also with Laurel, really good, and the Smoke Tech one, although definitely not great, was only really 2 scenes. So really my only complaint about the episode is the bye brother moment, which was just so terrible. But outside of that, I don't really have many complaints, so I will give this episode a 9.3 out of 10. But let me know what you thought about the episode in the comments down below, and if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.